We are counting down the 10 most wholesome and emotional moments that ever broke through Johnny Carson's famous late-night composure. From uplifting surprises behind the scenes to heartbreak aired live to millions, these moments revealed the real man behind the legend, one with deep loyalty, unexpected vulnerability, and a compassion that changed lives. Some of these stories began innocently and ended in tears, with a lasting impact far beyond the stage. Which unforgettable moment moved America the most? Let us begin at number 10, with the small gestures that helped launch countless comedy legends. Long before the tears and farewells, Johnny Carson quietly shaped the future of comedy from the wings. For young stand-up comics, The Tonight Show was the ultimate test. The real prize was not just a good set, it was a seat on Johnny's couch. That silent invitation, a simple wave from behind the desk, meant you had earned his respect. Ellen DeGeneres remembers that moment in 1986 when Carson called her over after her debut set. She said it changed everything, launching her from small clubs to national television almost overnight. Drew Carey, too, credits his first couch invite in the early 90s with opening doors that led to his own sitcom and years of steady work. Even Jerry Seinfeld, who first took the stage in 1981, has described Carson's approval as the moment that made him a star. Backstage, Johnny was known for easing nerves with a quiet word and a reassuring smile. For comics facing the toughest crowd of their lives, that kindness and that couch could change the course of a career forever. During one of Johnny Carson's milestone anniversary shows, The Tonight Show staff decided to honor the man who always kept the spotlight on others. Without tipping him off, longtime crew members stepped out from behind the scenes. Camera operators, stagehands, and producers walked onto the stage. Carson's face registered pure shock as he recognized each familiar face. These were people he had worked with for decades, but who had never stood in front of the cameras. He went down the line, hugging them, greeting each person by name, and asking about their families. He remembered details that proved he saw them as more than just colleagues. For once, the laughter faded into something softer. The audience watched as the king of late night was humbled by the people who made the show run every night, many of whom had been with him since the beginning. That night, Carson's gratitude was not reserved for Hollywood's biggest stars. It was for the family he had built behind the curtain, the ones who helped him bring laughter into America's living rooms for 30 years. Carol Burnett was always more than just a guest on The Tonight Show. She was a trusted friend who brought out a different side of Johnny Carson. Whenever her name was announced, the mood in the studio seemed to lighten. Carson, known for his careful reserve, would visibly let his guard down as soon as Burnett took her seat. Their conversations often drifted to the early days when both were scrambling for stage time and dreaming of steady work. On one memorable night, they swapped stories about tiny clubs, missed trains, and the moments they almost gave up. Laughter filled most of their exchanges, but every so often a note of gratitude slipped through, a quiet acknowledgement of just how far they had both come. Off stage, Carson told friends that Burnett brought sunshine with her every time she visited. In a business built on competition and appearances, their friendship felt genuine. Watching them together, viewers caught a rare glimpse of what trust and respect looked like between two television legends. During Johnny Carson's final week behind the desk, he paused the usual jokes and monologues to honor the one who had been his musical partner for a quarter of a century. Doc Severinsen, trumpet in hand and dressed in his trademark bold colors, had led the Tonight Show band since the late 1960s. Carson turned to Doc and, in front of millions, thanked him for 25 years of friendship and music. He did more than praise Doc's talent. He spoke about loyalty, about the nights when the band carried the show through rough patches, and about the quiet moments backstage that never made it to air. Doc, usually quick with a quip, found himself holding back tears as Carson named band members one by one, asked after their families, and recalled stories only true friends would know. The audience rose in a thunderous standing ovation as Johnny and Doc embraced, both men visibly moved. For a show built on nightly ritual, this was the night the music itself became a love letter. One that said thank you not just for the laughs, but for a lifetime spent together in the glow of the studio lights. Lucille Ball's visits to The Tonight Show always drew a special kind of attention. But in 1973, Johnny Carson had a surprise that even she did not see coming. As the conversation turned to her early days in Hollywood, Carson queued up a reel of black and white footage, one of Lucy's first screen tests from the 1930s, unearthed from the studio vaults. The film flickered to life, showing a much younger Ball, years before I Love Lucy or Desilu. For a moment, the Queen of Comedy was speechless. Her eyes welled up as she watched her younger self on screen, memories rushing back from a lifetime ago. The audience fell silent, catching a rare glimpse of vulnerability from a woman known for her unbreakable wit. Lucy quickly gathered herself and tossed out a joke to break the tension, but the emotion lingered in the room. Carson never pushed or made it a spectacle. He simply let her have the moment. It was a tribute from one television pioneer to another, built on respect and a deep understanding of what it means to look back on a long, remarkable journey. In June 1991, Johnny Carson's world changed forever. News broke that his son Rick, a 39-year-old photographer, had died in a tragic accident while taking pictures along the California coast. Carson, who had spent decades keeping his private life out of the spotlight, quietly stepped away from The Tonight Show to mourn with his family, leaving only a short statement for the press. When he finally returned to the stage, he did not try to turn his pain into a segment. Instead, he sat at his desk, looked into the camera, and addressed the loss with a few trembling words. He thanked viewers for their letters and cards. His voice was barely steady, and he let a moment of silence hang in the air. There was no attempt to mine the tragedy for sympathy, no dramatic music, no lingering shots. Just a father, grieving, choosing dignity over spectacle. For an audience used to laughter, the honesty of that moment landed like a punch. Carson's reserve had always been his armor, but that night the cracks showed. He let America see his pain just for a moment before moving on. It was a reminder that even legends are not immune to heartbreak, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply say thank you. May 21st, 1992. The Tonight Show was winding down, and Johnny Carson sat behind his desk for one of the last times. Bette Midler, always quick with a joke, had spent the evening trading stories and laughter with Johnny. Then, without warning, she turned the mood. She announced she wanted to sing something special for him. The band began to play One for My Baby and One More for the Road, a torch song about the end of a long journey. Midler sang directly to Carson, her voice steady but full of feeling. The studio, usually alive with chatter, fell silent. A camera pushed in close, catching Carson's eyes as they filled with tears. For a man who made a career out of keeping his cool, the emotion was unmistakable. When the last note faded, Midler draped a red lei around Johnny's neck and embraced him. She was crying now, too. Carson leaned forward, kissed her hand, and managed only, "I can't top that." His voice cracked, and for a moment, the king of late night was just another person saying goodbye to a friend. The audience stayed quiet, letting the moment linger. That night, the walls between host and guest, performer and audience, seemed to disappear. It was a farewell, wrapped in music, memory, and gratitude, a reminder that even legends have hearts that break. May 22nd, 1992. The Tonight Show's final curtain was about to fall, but Johnny Carson chose simplicity over spectacle. No celebrity guests, no elaborate send-off, just Johnny at his desk, facing the camera, speaking directly to the millions who had made him part of their nightly routine for 3 decades. "I am one of the lucky people in the world. I found something I always wanted to do, and I have enjoyed every single minute of it. The words hung in the air, his trademark composure giving way to something raw and unmistakably human. Television historians later called this one of the most powerful farewells in broadcast history, not because of any grand gesture, but because of Carson's humility and the way he let the moment breathe. For a brief stretch of time, it felt less like a show and more like a private goodbye between old friends. That night, America saw the man behind the legend, grateful, vulnerable, and deeply aware of just how much he'd been given. Jimmy Stewart took his seat beside Johnny Carson on a quiet night in July 1981, carrying nothing more than a folded piece of paper. He mentioned almost offhand that he had written a poem about his dog Beau, who had recently passed away. Carson expected a lighthearted story, and he leaned back as Stewart began to read. The words came slowly, each line simple and unadorned. Stewart spoke of muddy footprints on the kitchen floor, of long walks and silent companionship. As he reached the final stanza, his voice faltered. And there are nights when I think I feel that stare, and I reach out my hand to stroke his hair, but he is not there. The studio, usually alive with laughter and applause, fell into a hush. No one moved. No one dared to break the spell. Carson, known for his quick wit and perfect timing, sat with tears welling in his eyes. He did not reach for a joke or a clever line. He simply let the moment breathe. For nearly half a minute, the only sound was the soft hum of the studio lights and the quiet shuffling of an audience caught off guard by real, unscripted grief. Producers later recalled that the control room made a rare choice. They held the silence, refusing to cut to commercial or to play music. Stewart folded his poem, and Carson, still visibly moved, thanked him in a voice barely above a whisper. Two legends had shared something raw and deeply human, and for a brief moment, late-night television felt like a living room where everyone was allowed to mourn a beloved friend. May 22, 1992. After 3 decades and more than 4,000 episodes, Johnny Carson sat at his desk for the very final time. The studio was quiet, the band waiting, the audience holding its breath. There were no celebrity guests, no comedy bits, no distractions, just Johnny, alone under the lights, facing the camera as he had so many nights before. But this time, there would be no tomorrow, no next show. The moment had come to say goodbye. Carson straightened his notes, looked directly into the lens, and paused. For a few seconds, it seemed as if the entire country was waiting with him. He took a breath and delivered the words that would echo in living rooms across America. "I bid you a very heartfelt good night." He stood, glanced around the set he'd called home for 30 years, and walked quietly off stage. No fanfare, no curtain call, just the band playing softly as he disappeared behind the curtain. The camera didn't follow him. Instead, it lingered on the empty desk and chair, the familiar backdrop now suddenly hollow. For nearly half a minute, nothing moved. The silence was absolute, broken only by the faint sounds of the band's final notes drifting away. That empty desk became a symbol, an era ending, a nightly ritual suddenly gone. Across the country, millions of viewers sat in stunned silence, many with tears streaming down their faces. Newspapers the next morning described a nation in mourning, as if a friend had left the room for good. Columnists called it the most dignified farewell in television history. Even longtime critics admitted that no other host had ever managed to make late-night television feel so personal, or its ending so profound. For 30 years, Johnny Carson was a fixture in American homes, a steady presence through changing times, always ready with a joke or a gentle smile. In those last seconds, stripped of applause and laughter, he offered only gratitude and a final good night. The camera's unwavering hold on the vacant set let the loss settle in, giving America the space to grieve and remember. When the band's last note faded and the screen finally went dark, it was clear television would never be the same again. Across all 10 moments, one pattern stands out. Even the most guarded icons need connection. Carson's rare vulnerability proved that the heart behind the laughter mattered more than the punchline. His legacy isn't just entertainment. It is the reminder that genuine kindness and openness create lasting impact. That's why these moments still move us decades later. Which Carson moment touched you most? Let us know in the comments below.